And we're set for another big Monday night show between you and I. I'm looking forward to get stuck into it, mate.
Mate, I am looking forward to it. So let's run the SHIT out of the old intro and get straight stuck into it.
What's going on? Fucking today!
Martin's been very impressive every single time.
They saw the Carlton supporters and they came before the lava.
No sense of playing Glasgow. And there's a magic moment. Ball inside 50. Control! He strikes it beautifully. He's got it.
Oh dear, it warms the cockles. And a big shout out to all the Premiership members of the channel. You help these magical things happen, the creations, the wittiness, and all that malarkey. So shout out to you, and shout out to everyone as you enter in. As you enter in, I do have to give an apology. Last time I was on this show, I said Charlie Curnow was the greatest footballer in the world. And here is a clip for those just to jog your memory.
I said it last time I was on it. He's the best football player in the world. I don't know why he's laughing for. Chris, why are you laughing for?
It's the planet. I was wrong. The planet. But good day to everyone. We've got a bumper-filled show. But firstly, how are you doing, Paolo, in this sunny Melbourne?
I'm good. I'm well, mate. I went for a lovely run yesterday. Got up mid-arvo today because I was doing all the Premier League stuff for SEN last night, which was good fun. Went to visit my lovely grandmother today, just before. Had a nice feed with her. Lovely brodo, nice Italian soup with the meatballs running through it, which was great. Little bit of bread, and away we go, mate. I'm all energized for another night, mate. Overnight crowd later tonight as well after this. So it's the day of work is only just beginning, my friend.
Mate, it's 9 a.m. for Paolo.
It is. It actually is. It's
Make sure you check him out on SEN. Crystal clear on the SEN airwaves, I've been told.
Yes, that's the one, mate. I'm glad you're picking up on my repetitive intro.
Mate, my brain is repetitive. And we've got a bumper-filled show this week. And we're going to start with a nice conversation. And that is none other than the season has just finished. Our beloved AFLW goes. So there's a couple of points of agenda in this. We're going to discuss Mr. Harford. But I took a bit of time because I'm off work at the moment to get some feedback from people, right? So we have got the feedback, but this is a very special guest. He's an Italian and he's a Rangers player. And I asked him just for his professional opinion on the women's season.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
And a few words, Mr. Gattuso, but it wasn't a great year. But before we get into it, I just want to remind people, this is pretty much what the season has been like.
Passion, there is no vision, there is no aggression, there is no fucking mindset in this football.
He has to go, blood. He has to go.
It's time to go!
People are happy, are they? People are happy.
It's global feedback, Poppy. It's global feedback.
Mate, that's a scary proposition. Well, I mean, obviously the girls this year, as we know, they didn't make finals. Essendon, Gold Coast, GWS all had better years than us. St Kilda, we were level with Hawthorn, who are a new side. Essendon, as we say, the other new side beat us. 2 wins, 6 losses, a percentage of 74. It was almost like the glory days of Brendan Bolton, wasn't it?
What else can be said? Probably tactically, again, backwards. It just, you know what the worst thing is? I think the worst thing as a supporter, as a member, as a person who follows not just, AFLW and AFL religiously, but, just Aussie rules in general. When you can pick out something is wrong prior to the season beginning, and the club that you follow just continue to go down the path that is wrong, and then you are proven right by the club just imploding throughout the year, I don't think there's anything more disheartening as a fan. But conversely as well, it just goes to show that we realise that the people inside the AFLW program at the moment are completely incompetent in what they're doing. And for me, I'm not focusing on the coach per se. I'm focusing on the board member, Pat Kinnesley, who's got away completely scot-free with any accountability bestowed upon her in this AFLW program. And you and I continually say this: the standards, the culture, and the way with which you play on the field is all set from the top, and that's from the board member. And I just don't think, I think that it's a completely poorly run organisation, and I'm sick of the expansion excuse, because it didn't affect Adelaide, it didn't affect Brisbane, it hasn't affected Collingwood, didn't affect North Melbourne, didn't affect Melbourne, didn't affect the Western Bulldogs. GWS finished ahead of us, Richmond finished ahead of us. So what my concern now is, what happens here? They sack half. Great. What happens? Same board members in place. The same people who are making these executive decisions at a management level are still at the club making these decisions. What trust do I have, and what trust does our supporter base have with the same people there making the same decisions? We've had 20 players leave over the last 2 years, the most of any AFLW club. We've had, a coach that's been signed to a 2-year extension, and it's been our worst ever season. And we signed a 36-year-old who has provided nothing for us this year. Elise O'Day, we moved heaven and earth to get in the draft, who's provided us with nothing. Darcy Vesho's, just forget about her anymore. I'm sick of the goal scoring records and hearing about all that, because she provides nothing else. And all our senior players, aside from maybe Karen Peterson and Mua Leilofi, the rest of them are all rubbish. And Mimi Hill is probably the only shining light alongside Bree Moody. The fact of the matter is that we have 6 very good AFLW players, which is more than what we can say for a lot of the other teams. And we've won 2 games for the year and drawn with an expansion team in Port Adelaide, whose team is, it had struggled to beat a VFLW team, really. And I don't know what more else I can say about the whole thing, is the fact that we predicted this before the season began, and the fact that people in the club had no idea that this was going to entail the way it did just tells you how incompetent they are.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest worry for me is we had an opportunity when we did the men's review. I think it should have been a total football department review.
Agreed.
I don't want to get on Hartford's, well, I do, because I like sacking coaches, I'm going to be honest. 41% though, since we made finals, and you got to remember, we made finals when it was a Mickey Mouse ladder system. So before we say, oh, that's really good, we made finals, that our division was the weakest division by a long way, our conference. But we've only won 41% of games since then. That's 3 seasons. So I think at that point, you've got to ask yourself, why wasn't that reviewed at that stage? And then to back your point up, it's almost getting to the stage now that the club sees football secondary this year. And it has felt like the AFLW, the football, is the secondary product of this. And there isn't enough focus, in my opinion, in the media we're putting out from the club. When I look at Hawthorn, who are a brand new female side, it's all about business. And I know they've got Goddard. I know they've got a superstar. But my biggest question, and I would love Kinnesley to come on the show and ask her, I appreciate they keep saying this. They keep saying, oh, we've lost a lot of players. Well, to me, if there's anyone in the world that says that, this is what my ears hear.
So forget that. It's been raining, so the pitch is quite...
It's been raining?
Yeah.
Are you being serious? It's raining for both teams.
Yeah, I know. But
come on, Tom.
And that's what I'm saying. What he says there, both teams, all the other teams in the AFLW have signed quality, established players. So when they have lost players, that's quality, isn't it? What a soundbite. But when they've lost it, you don't have to go to the draft. You can acquire some senior talent. And it almost felt like this year, Hartford was quite confident at the start of the year that we'd be competitive.
Was.
And we were far, far from it. So you've got to look at the recruitment. You've got to look at the marketing, the branding. You've got to look at I'd say the biggest thing, the messaging to the fan base.
Of course it is.
You've got to remember, 5 years ago when this started, We had a capacity crowd. And that's falling off. That's falling off. And they're basically dining out now on young girls enjoying it because that's their role models. We need to be looking one step ahead because, like you say, the girls are playing for this football club. And this football club, I'm a firm believer, successful juniors, successful women, successful men's side. If you're a very good sporting establishment, all of it works. Not just one bit, all of it works. And that is worrying to me that they're letting this slide. And it feels to me they're letting it slide.
Of course. And the problem for me now is that, look at a team like Richmond, which has won countless flags over the last few years. Their AFLW team has come in. They've done what they have to do, and they've made finals this year, albeit, they've lost to Brisbane, and that's understandable. But they've gone in and done the job, and they have a team that looks like it's going to be pretty solid for the next couple of years. And that Richmond as a club has had sustained success for quite a while. Look at Geelong. Geelong came from absolutely nowhere last season to make the 8 this year, lost. But look at them as a football club. The problem is that I think that our AFLW program too is just the chasm of a club that it hasn't found its way yet. But I think the problem is that there is no care factor for what happens on the field. And we're still in this mode of we celebrate we have a team rather than actually celebrating what a team is supposed to be about. We should have been we did that in the first season. Yep, we've got an AFLW team now. We've got a women's program. Great, brilliant. But now what my concern is that we've had a 7-year head start on most of the competition and we're already backwards. How does that happen? How has this AFLW program, how has our board member in Pat Kinnisley not been able to set up a foundation where after 7 years, we don't have 20 players leaving because of expansion. We don't have an issue with a toxic culture at the club with which, opposition teams, and I can tell you this because I know obviously have, a lot of close people at other clubs and people I speak to from other clubs. No one respects us at all. They think we play an absolutely garbage brand of football. And I've got a very close friend of mine who plays at, who's partner of his plays at North Melbourne, and, was sort of asked, would you go to Carlton? And she said, no way, not in a million years. Not in a million years I'd go there. And what does that say about what's going on at the club? Then you go back and strip back and look at the halftime interview with Pat Kinnisley in that Bulldogs game when it was 20 apiece, right? Where was the question asked about what's going on the field? So the people the people in media are not holding their feet to the fire at Carlton, and no one at the club is either. So you just get away with it because you don't have to answer the questions. And Pat Kinnisley wouldn't come onto the show and cop a grilling off you and I, because we'd have to hand in the questions. Oh, what questions do you have to ask? You've got to hand them in. And the fact that you have to do that, if you have to do that, speaking to people at a club, that just tells you that it's all controlled, it's all sanitized garbage, and that they are hiding something because they haven't been held into account. It's as simple as that, Pommy, mate. The program that they've bestowed upon these girls at the moment is a disgrace. Period. That's it. There is nothing else to say. Nothing else to say.
Mate, spawn and
I don't care about who knows internals. People speak to people at the club telling me, they think it's all okay. Everything's okay. They've just got to work harder. Of course they're going to say that because they're in jobs. Of course they're going to say that. What else are they going to say?
Mate, exactly. And, exactly what Brian says here. How do you fix it? I think it's straightforward. And I think that this is an Australian-wide problem, right, with the AFL. The AFL has got some kind of stigma with the AFLW. They've pushed it out way too early. We've got to deal with that. That decision's been made. But for me, there is professional female coaches that have historic success. There's no surprise for me. I remember doing the show with Shannon. She's now doing it with Kira last year. We were both hot on Beck Goddard, saying, bring her in. If Carlton are going to go through a rebuild, bring a professional in who knows exactly what it takes to build a dynasty from the ground up. And at the moment, it feels that, in my opinion, my view, I'm a big advocate of equality, and what I'm seeing is the opposite of equality. I'm seeing a lot of guys get gigs because they're former footballers, they're nice guys, they're pally. And I'm looking at the other teams, and they're going female coaches who have in their first year. They're going Beck Goddard, who has been in country football and state league football for 10, 15 years. There isn't ex-players who are ex-superstars or favours. These ex-players have gone through their internal systems to get their coaching badges, and then they're focusing on AFLW. They're saying, nah, I want to do women's footy. And that is where it goes wrong. And I think if we're actually honest, and the club is honest, it ain't the bollocks that we're getting fed, franchise clubs coming in. Bollocks. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's because the system isn't loved. It's because it's not harnessing talent. We've got, like you said, so many girls in this would play in all 18 sides in the comp. We've probably got the best key defender in the comp. We've got the best rugby. We've got the best ruck in the comp. We've had two of the best tall forwards in the comp. We got rid of them. We have superstars in and around the ball still to this day. And in my opinion, you need to get rid. You need to have a mass clear out. And this might sound horrible. Kinnersley has to fall on her sword too, and someone has to come in with a brand new philosophy and treat these girls like the men. It's not going to interfere with the men because they're two separate departments. All the other clubs, though, have crossovers, but it's actually focusing on the women's game and the entity, what brand you've got. And it's a cheat code. Should be easy. We play an archaic 1980s brand of football. You should be able to play a new game.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think going back to opposition clubs just not respecting us, it just pertains to all that. And no one, the fact that people want to leave and don't want to stay just says it all. And people saying, oh, but the money offers that they're getting, that's rubbish because, the money that you get, if you have a place where you're welcomed, you love being there, you're working towards a common goal, you know what you're there for, you embrace the people around you, contracts come secondary and third to that. You look at how Geelong have done it for years. Look at how Richmond have done it. They all take pay cuts to stay together because the financial incentives and financial benefits you get, that's only going to sustain you for a little period of time, isn't it? And I get why girls would want to move out and go to another club because of a big contract. But how many Carlton players were offered huge contracts outside of what we could offer them? And then conversely, how much cap space would we have had left if these players had left? Why weren't we replacing them?
Well, I mean, that's my biggest question. The trades we did for picks the last 2 years, nothing short of banter, and the amount of senior players that have left other clubs. There's no surprise we were shit at goal kicking. We had no key forwards.
Exactly.
Like, we managed to sell Courtney Jones, who looked like she was a sort, about 10 minutes before the deadline closed. And she requested a trade to Gold Coast.
I know.
It was shit. So, for me, honestly, I mean this in the nicest possible way. If anyone knows Dan Arthur, might be a nice guy. Fucking hopeless coach. Honestly, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't trust him managing my order at the pub. You know what I mean? Let alone an elite level sporting exercise. And I think the problem stems, sorry, Shan, to get you started. Remember when Taylor Harris had them issues with the contract? He made her look like a clown. And for me, that's the problem. And I like what Peter's saying here. Get Daisy Pearce in. Why not? Go a new way. You've looked at what Lauren's done at Port. Absolutely phenomenal Arnell has done. You can see the brand they're building. It looks nice. Go a new way. Bring in some female coaches and let's fucking see it thrive because it's representing the men. Whether you like it or not, it represents the men because they wear our branding. So Would you accept this with the men? No. If the NGA was fucking about, would you accept that? No. So you can't accept this.
Completely agree, mate. As I said, my crosshairs are firmly placed on executive management and board member for this because that's where I think it all stems from. And the fact that we've had these 2 disastrous years, I don't know how she doesn't step down from the role unless they've said, oh, the facility we've put in is going to get you over the line, but that's all government funded. A lot of it's government funded and government organised. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the last 2 seasons we've had, and the fact that there doesn't seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel, from my point of view, she either has to answer questions as to what the hell is going on and what's going to happen in the future to actually give us some guidance as a fan base and as a membership base, or if you can't provide that in the next couple of weeks, stand down. Simple as that,
mate. And
she hasn't had to answer a question.
Mate, I couldn't agree.
All she had to answer at that half-time game of the Bulldogs game was about Carlton respects. What about the on-field stuff? 20 players left in 2 years. What's going on?
And this is like Sammy D says. For me, I think they hide behind. If you question it, suddenly you're putting too much pressure on them. Fuck that, right? Fuck that, right? I am pure equal. Tell you what, I understand the skill level is going to be nowhere near the men's. The men have had 100 years start. I went to university. I've got a brain. I understand.
Not about skill levels,
I
mate.
understand evolution. But the way they're being run, if you run like this in 100 years, we're worse than North in the men's. Yeah. So, like, literally, it is a shit show. And honestly, the style is like, I've heard Shannon Kira, like, they go mental. Some of the worst things. But Christian, you've brought us down with the best analyst on the internet. We love you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
We love you. Tell you what, I can't talk about the AFL. Honestly, Kinnersley, if you're there and you're listening, do me a favour, will you? Step down or just hand it over to someone else. But talking about new people.
Good.
Here we are. We have some Carlton news. You know,
we have a modern development coach, someone who's actually played the game, and we haven't gone down and tried to get someone from 1970s to overlook the coach's shoulder. Isn't that a welcome change?
Mate, I had to actually refresh it just to make sure it was the Brad Ebert who retired from Port within the last 24 months. And it wasn't like a Brad Ebert who played in 1975 who had a mate or something. I was actually shocked. But Brad Ebert comes across, taking, obviously, Luke Power's vacancy. Luke Power's still that head of development, but now the VFL coach as well. He's going to be using this as the standalone role. And I think really exciting. 260 games, former top 15 pick. A lot of games for a very solid outfit. It was interesting as well. I was doing a bit of recon, and he worked with the juniors while he was at Port Adelaide in the final years of his contract as well, working alongside Vossi, which turns me on massively because, as Christian points out a couple of weeks ago, did say that. I said, whoever Voss wants, couldn't give a shit if it's old Mick down the pub. If that's who Voss says will work well with him, get him. And obviously, there's a kin. So, everyone in chat, Paolo, what were your initial thoughts of Mr. Bradley Ebert?
Oh, I think echoing your sentiments we've got someone in there who actually understands the modern game and can bring us in line with that, further to what we have done so in the last season. So, look, I mean, it's the development coach. I mean, I'm not jumping through hoops or doing handstands about it, but it's I would assume Vossi knows him because of his time at Port Adelaide, and someone's had to step into Luke Power's role. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, I mean, I love it, and I think this is a great point here as well by David. He maximised his potential, and I think we're going to come on to what we think is wrong with Carlton or what we need to improve per se. Can't say that. That's bad development. You can't say what's wrong, what we improve. But for me, I think what is really important to look at here is that he was durable, but he also got the best. And if you go back to Vossi's end of season, do that extra training session, do that extra rehab session, do that extra warm down, things like that. I think that is integral because this guy kind of personifies that.
Yeah, and I think that's what Vossi was alluding to in the back end of this season and post-season is that, we've missed the 8 by 0.3% or whatever it might have been. And it's just all the little things that have added up into that. And now it's all about adding up those little things to gain the compound interest. that you're hopefully going to get next season. So it eventually shoots off. But look, I mean, I don't think we can. I don't think our coaching panel is the issue at the moment. I think we have a very, very strong coaching panel, and I think it's the strongest it has been for quite some time. And now it's just about getting the boys fit and keeping them fit. That's what it's about, really, and making sure that injury list doesn't get back up to where it is. And maybe someone like him, just with regards to that development and saying, okay, well, this is what you need to do to keep your body in nick and keep your body in good nick. Go for that extra recovery session. Go do that extra goal kicking session. Go do that extra running session. Go do that extra recovery session. So, he had a bit of an ugly end to his career as well, Brad Ebert, with his concussions, I think, which was not ideal for him. So I think he would still have a little bit of unfinished business left as well. Didn't play in a flag at Port Adelaide, got close a few times with those finals, but I'm sure he'd have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder too. And I think to finalise it, the fact that he understands the modern game and he's just out of it, I think is perfect for us.
Mate, I think you've nailed it. I think you've nailed it. And to answer your question, Clarence, they work with players first through the door to 3 years, and they re-ingrain basic skills. They also reinforce the game plan and things like that. So it's more of a one-on-one coach for the babies. But they do, if Luke Power's anything to go by, that also translates to some of the senior players as well. But officially, it's meant to be 3 years and below. So probably the perfect person. And I thought this was an interesting comment here. Someone commented it, Tony, know a lot about the junior talent. He has currently worked in the state league. So might be not saying it's something, but it could be something that maybe Carlton are looking at some South Australians. There is one that we keep talking about on this show, Jake Walker.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, he's an Alberton boy as well. Is there something there to keep that little continuity? And you never know. That's just speculation, though. We don't do speculation on this show.
No, never. It's nice to even have maybe his IP as well, something different too. So he might be able to give us some insight that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Mate, spot on. So Bradley, sounds like the chat like him. We like him. Welcome to the club, Brad, mate.
Welcome.
And
welcome.
The next one is Patrick Cripps, the legend that is. He's had a refreshing holiday in the sun, but he went quite interestingly to New England Patriots and spent a little bit of time and did a very telling interview. It is on the website, but he did do some couple of training sessions with them and worked on different recovery techniques specifically and different body pattern and articulated running. I think he said practical running is what he called it. So I thought that was quite interesting that we're starting to see these players. And I wanted to talk about this a bit. Usually I'm on this show every time of year, pissing and moaning that the players are 8 Coronas deep, wearing sombreros with vomit hanging down their thing, going, hang about, you're representing us in 3 months.
The straw hat.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They've got a different girl on their Insta every night. But I thought this was really telling that he's gone there with a few of the boys, the blue boys, and they were actively working out nearly every day on their Instas. And I just think that we're maybe starting to see a shift here in Patrick Cripps, the lovable hero, to Patrick Cripps, the leader. And it's really poignant, I think. I'm really seeing this leadership come out in him.
Yeah, I think he's also undertaken, I think he said something about new breathing techniques and breathing training or something like that he was engaging in with some of the players over there and coaches. I think he went to the Nike. I think he might have gone to the Nike training, one of their massive training facilities over there, and done some stuff over there too. So I think you and I are really big on this in getting, intellectual property, IP, and insight from different sports and carrying that, not just the off-field stuff, but also the on-field stuff into our club. And I think that's where you need to start to be intelligent with these things and not pigeonhole yourself to what we have done and tried over here. You've got to be innovative with these things, Pommy. I mean, we've seen the live drafting and live trading come into fruition, and now that's going to start to, bear fruit in the next, sort of 10 to 15 years in draft time, and we're going to start seeing it too. I think there's noise that Nick Austin's going to start making his moves up and down the draft board on draft night with some live trading. So that's stuff that's come from overseas. Now Cripper with this new training stuff that he's sort of trying to learn and knowledge that he's trying to impart into his mindset from overseas. So the more you can pick out these elite organizations who have been there and won it all at the top, because ultimately it's the same footprint. You're there trying to win a championship, you're there trying to win a grand final. And I think teams who have been there and done it in the modern era, those are the teams that you need to pick the brains of. Look at what Al Clarkson has done at North Melbourne. He went over to America for a year working with Golden State Warriors, trying to learn what they do with the draft and how they develop their players. And I think it's the same for Carlton as well. So you've got to come up with innovative ways. You've got to come up with a competitive edge. You've got to come up with your USP, so to speak, your unique selling point, not just as a club off the field, but as a club on the field too. And the moment you start following others, you're always going to be behind. So you've got to come up with your own ways.
Mate, spot on. And I'm loving some of the comments here. Lewis and Brian, particularly, mentality of the lion. He tries new things, techniques to advance his game. Exactly like what Paolo's saying there, that went to that renowned sports psychologist. And I love Brian's comment here, an interest in physical and mental self-development. Really shows the maturity of him. It's something that I think a lot of men, and I'd imagine women as well. I'm not a woman, so I can't comment. You've always been emotionally more intelligent, though, than me every stage of my life. But I do know with guys, when I got to about mid-20s, that's when mental health and why do I do things and how can I get better seem to be a bit more poignant, because you usually at that stage, you know everything, but then you realize you fucking don't. Do you know what I mean? You realize there's so much more to learn. So I like it, but I think the innovation is a thing. And I think the wonderful thing about being Australian is, oh, look at me. Pom, Australian. Hey, look at that. Been here way too long. The wonderful thing here is when we have our break, the biggest leagues in the world are still playing.
Yes.
So EPL, and you've got your NBA, NFL. All these places spend probably what they spend a week is what the AFL spends in a decade on these innovation ideas. I love the fact, and I've seen it's not just him. I've seen Harry Mackay go and do more sprint training. I saw Fisher had got involved in some local basketball projects, I think it was, when he was out there in the States as well. I've seen some of the guys go and visit Barcelona behind training sessions. All these little things give you just that incremental edge. And then if you go back and look at greats, Roger Federer, do you know what I mean? He went to different sports. Manchester United spent a lot of time, ironically, with Bill Belichick. And Fergie loved picking his brain. These kind of things will rub off. And I'm really excited about this. And like Christian says here, spot on. Seeing Cunners and Charlie, you know what? Just so everyone knows, I follow Kerno and I've got notifications on. And when he posted at 6:45 this morning, I shit myself. I was like, oh, fuck me. He's got pissed, hasn't he? It's going to be him in a jacuzzi. And he was there doing a fucking run with Cunners.
Good.
I was like, Charlie. But yeah, but it rubs off, doesn't it? When Cripps is doing it, and this is why I used to be harsh to Cripps last year. Because now he's their boss, almost. Yeah. He's doing this. If you're Charlie Kerner, feet up, and you suddenly log in and you see he's there chatting to some of the greatest sports people in the world.
Exactly.
You can hardly have another beer, can you?
No.
It's harder to if he's not enjoying himself.
Yeah, no, spot on. I don't think there's not much more to add to it. And you just hope that our CEO, and he sort of come in, and I think he sort of made mention of this where he said, we need to have intelligent people, and we need to have our own competitive edge on and off the field. We need to have our own way of doing things. Because as I said, the moment you start to follow and try to pick up things, you can pick brains and pick out certain things, but you can't copy. That's the thing. You've got to try and pick and mold things into one like that, and then try to come up with the best way that suits you. And the best way that's going to get the best, not just out of yourself, but the teammates around you. So, look, hopefully these things that they're implementing in the off-season now mean that not just the mindset changes, but physically that the boys can actually get into a realm of durability and handling, the physical stresses of AFL for, 23, 24, 25 rounds.
Mate, spot on. And back up Rob's point here. You are a very smart guy, Paolo. Very intelligent you are. I'll give you it. I'll give him that.
Thanks, Rob.
Now. We love him.
Thanks, Rob.
But I agree. What Lewis is saying here, there is a vibe, isn't there, that these guys look a bit pissed off. That they're a little bit like, you know what? There's another stage to this. And winning's infectious. And I just get that impression that this whole culture shift from Cripps, this culture shift from the players seeming a lot more responsible in the offseason. Even Zachy Williams, he's done some good posts of him jogging with the pram. I froth that. That. Maybe something switched in their heads and they've realised they're not as far away as they think.
One would hope so. If not, don't just do it for, you're not just doing it for yourself and doing it for your fans, but you're doing it for your families, those people around you as well. And, as much as taking the football field, they're going to be proud of. I think winning and achieving the ultimate success is going to be, make others proud as well. So it's just hard to, like, after what happened at the end of last season, to pick yourself up off the ground. But it seems as though they've sort of all put it to one side and hopefully use it as motivate. But I think it's a controlled aggression that you always speak about, Pommy. You don't want to go into these things too emotional because then you make irrational decisions. So we've got to have controlled aggression coming into this off season and coming into this preseason.
Mate, control what you can control, react to what you can't. And they're reacting to what they can't control. Like JJ says, I agree. That 1 point loss, I reckon the way to react to it, if you're intelligent, is do something you haven't done. Do you know what I mean? Go and see that shrink. Go and do that run. Do you know what I mean? Do something different because you're nearly there. You just probably need to add effectively 1 point. Do you know what I mean? You need to effectively find 1 point somewhere. And the old British cyclist coach said that if we improved everything 0.1%, we'd win 10 golds. And that was their plan, just making everything 0.1% better. Yeah. It does. It's really good. But that leads me to this. We've talked about success. Tell me, if you're the chairman now, the president, we always pick on the president. What is your goal, Paolo? What do you think the minimum success season looks like? And you guys in the audience, tell me, if you were on a press conference now, you tell me what is Carlton's goal for 2023 and put it in writing.
Provided all things equal with injuries and we have a fair run at it that way, it's got to be top 4, doesn't it? And making top 4 means that picture that you've got there with that gentleman holding that premiership cup, that's what it means, really. So, I mean, what do we play for? What do we play just to make finals? Or are we here to win flags? What are we here for?
Oh, Paolo, stop it. You're turning me on, bro.
I'm serious. What are we here for? What are we here to make finals?
Mate.
We're here to make top 4 and win premierships.
Mate, for me, I hate it when I hear any chairman go, oh, we hope to make finals.
No.
What's the fucking point of turning up then?
Mate, why? This is what I don't get. And I don't understand what is so bad about players and clubs and our players, our board members, our coaches coming out and saying, no, we're here to make the top 4 and we're here to win a premiership. Like, what's the big deal? I mean, and then people go, yeah, but that's obvious. I'm like, but is it? You've got to put it out into the ether, Pommy. And if you don't, well, then who's going to hold you to account? So, at the end of the day, I want them to come out and say we're here to win a premiership. I think the beauty about the best managers in the world and the best coaches in the world is that they don't say we're here to win games. They say we're here to win titles. We're here to win premierships. And that's what we should be there to do.
Mate, I love this one as well. Look, top 4 and win a flag. Like, I think my answer is the same. I want to see a massive, massive chunk into being a dynasty. And that, for me, is going deep. And I would say grand final is mine. That is it. That is the aim. I will give them a pass if they don't win the flag this year. But I want you to sully the flag. Make it a little bit dirty. Make it a big step. But I don't want any of this 8. Do you know what I mean? For me, and I agree with Let Dog here, I don't think it's one flag. I want to see a dynasty. I think that this rebuild has been so long, it must be a dynasty. Can't be 1 and then we go back to 9th.
Exactly.
It has to be, we're there for a 4 or 5 year window.
Yeah,
3 out of 5 and 2 losing finals as the boys get old and we bring the next wave in for the next dynasty. Exactly. I don't want 1 and then we fuck off and we're like,
nah,
that was good.
Nah, not like what I mean. You look at what the Doggies have done. The Bulldogs did that. They won 1 flag and now they're sort of back out and petered out again. And this is what we need to do. I mean, we're sick of waiting, mate. We're sick of waiting. We're sick of the excuses. We're sick of, being the laughing stock of the league. And we were at the end of this year again, the end of this season again. And it's just, it has to be top 4. There's no ifs or buts about it. If we get there, we get there. If not, we just need to keep on holding the feet to the fire.
Mate, I agree. And if it's any consolation, Chris Beach said it in my Carlton People episode, which was 4 years ago now. I said Carlton would win a flag by 2023. So it's a lock next year, baby. So being Beach said it. I love this from Lek Dog. Lek Dog spends way too much time in our company. He's starting to think the same. But this is my fear when teams say 8, because genuinely you never hit targets. Something happens, right? Yeah. So if you say 8th, 9th is in the margin of error. That's why when I hate 8, because 9 is a success then. Do you know what I mean? It's nearly there, right?
Exactly.
That's why I'm thinking if you say top 4 and you finish 8th and you win a final, suddenly it's disappointment, but then, we're in a granny. Do you know what I mean? That's a huge dub. So I'm with you there, Let Dog. But I like this. We've got sustained success. Jimmy's playing it cool. I like you, Jimmy. Take 1 and we go from there. That sounds like my night out strategy with the girls on a Friday when I was at uni. Like it. Max, stop it. Stop turning me on. Look at Manny. He's a Collingwood fan. Mate, I'll burn Icon Park down if we finish 9th again. I'll tell you. No. I won't be able to do it. If we do it by a point, my rant will be good. Big Andy, I agree. Goal should be big, hairy, and fucking audacious, mate.
Yes, I love that.
Spot on, buddy. Spot on.
Such brilliant.
We have it at work as well. Sometimes people are shit at goal setting, and it's like a shit goal. It's like, I hope I get 5 sales today. And I'm like, come on, give me 20. Give me 30. Let's go crazy. It's not mental. I mean, give me something to do. But how do we do that then? So everyone seems, I didn't do a vote, but off the top of my head, I would say top 4 is the bare requirement for you guys and girls. And I like that. So I thought Men Below Deck. What a great name for a band as well, just quietly.
Look at this 3-pronged attack. Have a look at
it. I thought we'd go into one of the big issues that I see. So we will be doing a video on this a bit more in depth, but there's a few things. Durability, we've got the 3rd most games missed last year, the most if you don't count COVID, because that doesn't count. So that's it. But I think if you go outside the wing, Carlton had the most scores against in transition caused by a 50-meter bomb, which genuinely means your wingers aren't deep enough and defensive enough. Mm-hmm. So there's another problem, but Carlton seem to have fixed that with Blake Acres. What else is it? And for me, this is what the numbers tell me.
Yep.
This one here. So we'll go through the numbers and we'll see if we can see a pattern. So what you'll see is this is their ranking out of 18 versus the AFL. So your first number you see is just the small forwards. That's the smalls, official smalls. So at the moment for Carlton, who have played the most in the small forward position, the pockets, is Durden, Motlop, and Mr. Owies.
Yep.
Then the next one's minus Keys. So I've just pissed off Harry and Charlie. Just pissed them off. And then we've got the forward lines of collectives. You can see goals, the smalls, about AFL average. But this is where it gets bad. Carlton are the only side finishing the top 10 who don't finish in the top 10 of all these stats. We're 15th, right? The tackles, I want you to look at the tackles. 5th for smalls, really good. Really good. Pressure's good. 6th, minus Keys. 8th with the forward line. That's pretty good. Means you're quite a potent force. Marks outside, these are important. Carlton are 9th, right? You don't want them high there. You don't want your pockets taking marks outside 50. 13th and 10th with the whole forward line. So what them cold numbers scream at me, just quietly, is 1, the third guy isn't doing enough.
Correct.
Goal-wise, and the smalls probably need to kick a few more goals between them because Brisbane, Geelong, Melbourne are the top 4 sides at doing that. So we need more output from them. But I think this is an important one here. And I want to just think of our makeup. Durden, Motlop, Owies. I think that's far too defensive.
Agree.
And if you look at the wonderful best line, I think, is Charlie Cameron, Zach Bailey, and Lincoln McCarthy at Brisbane. I think that's the best trio, 2 smalls and the high half forward.
Yep.
Frank Martin needs to be fit, and Christian's took the words out of my mouth. Our ability to take marks outside 50 kills us on our transition because we don't get the ball deep enough for the smalls to score. And I think that's the most worrying stat, the 13th, that our smalls lose shape because Durden spends half of his time running up the wing to help the transition. He's not at the feet. Yeah. Jack Martin's not fit, but when he is fit, JSOS doesn't get there and get into that 65 so we can get that next kick deeper. That's what we want. We want that overlap run. A great example is Collingwood. Jamie Elliott's goals, 2 of them this year, have been him marauding forward, taking the mark, then hitting up someone 55, and then him running on so he can then attack a key defender, which then creates that space. Ollie Henry got 2 goals through that method. That's why Carlton need it, because we play a fast brand. So these are the numbers. What's everyone thinking? Just so you know, a little cheat code. Our forwards, Motlop would have to improve his output based on games played by only 42%, which roughly means he needs 2 more shots. He needs 1.2 shots a game more at goal for him to be in Charlie Cameron territory.
It's not a big number, and the numbers to spike up are not big, but the fact of the matter is that you need to recognize it too. And I think from my point of view, and we kept harping on about this throughout the back end of the season, through the second half of the season, that our half forward line just continually broke down. And that's where a lot of our issues were, not only finding space deep inside forward 50, but also on transition and defending transition too. So I think the other thing that we alluded to is that a lot of the bigger teams and the top teams now are sort of not looking away completely from defensive pressure, but you look at the small forwards in the competition who are guns, and they don't really have that massive manic defensive pressure aspect to their game. And I think we speak of Tyson Stengel, Jack Ginnivan, so those type of players who, are not tackle freaks or defensive pressure freaks by any stretch of the imagination, but what they are goal sneaks and just pure finishers. And I don't think any of our small forwards, maybe aside from Motlop, are that, to be honest. So I would like to see, and I think we're going to get it out of him this year, touch wood, that he stays fit and he develops. I think we're going to see Motlop become our genuine, gun goal kicking forward, because I think a small forward, because he has a real knack, and I forgot. You saw it in the St Kilda game. You saw it in the Collingwood game. So I think he's the lock-in for that first small forward spot, just based on where I see the game going in the next year or so with that pure attacking small forward. And then conversely, outside of that, who do we put in to those, areas under him? Is it Fisher, who's quite direct with his ball movement? Is it, or do they go with Durden and tell him to play, a much more attacking role? I think we have to bestow that upon our small forwards now. Is that okay? Well, you've got these defensive aspects that you sort of need to meet, but at the same time, you also need to be kicking snags and having a keen eye for goal, and that should be taking the majority of your game.
Mate, I agree. And I think when you look, if you say Brisbane was the template, which I think most people in chat would agree, Brisbane are probably the template. They have a lot of goals in their smalls. And Charlie Cameron and McCarthy, when they play together, for me, have it. McCarthy's very similar in output to Durds.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Similar stature as well. Just there to really nag and be annoying. But then the guy that kills them is someone like Motlop, who's very direct, doesn't do the massive amount of defensive pressure, which I think always was a good stopgap. I would like to see Carlton, and exactly like Bugs Bell says here, I'd like to see this time next year, and I know Lek Dog's a fan as well, Cunners. Do you know what I mean? Cunners starting to put the pressure on. And like you said there, Fisher, I think that's a more diverse, and we'll get on to some guys that I think could come in who would be sorely offensive. And players like Ginnivan at Pies show you they play. They play. Oh God, his name's got me head. Not Beg, not Brand. Oh God, his name's got me head. The other guy,
Johnson.
Bug. Yeah, that's it.
From Collingwood.
No, the tackle guy. Name's got out of my head. That's going to annoy me.
From Collingwood.
Tell you what, I'm going to have to find out now. It's going to annoy me so much. I'm going to get so angry. And there's Pies fans in chat. Come on, guys.
McCreary.
McCreary, there we are. So McCreary. So they play a guy who would be like Owies, but then Motlop would be kicking 2.4 goals a game.
Yep.
So that's how the setup works. So real interesting. It's not far away. You've got to remember as well, our Smalls have played the least games together than anyone else by round one last year. So finishing average is pretty good. But that says to me, the setup needs to change. And I'm sure we all agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely spot on. But I think we've got some players who could potentially fill those roles in the draft, probably, do we not?
We do. And we're going to get onto that because I've got the best question I've probably been sent. But we've got this one here, right? So before you come at me, this has been the second most asked question this week, right? Are Carlton getting Busslinger? And there's a lot of Twitter sources saying Busslinger's locked in. So I went to see my source about Busslinger, and this is what he said.
Very false. Very, very false.
True.
No. Very, very false. It's so false. It's very bad.
But I thought, let's be objective, even though I don't think Mr. Busslinger is going to be the man. Let's be objective and see a reason why Carlton might draft him. So, who is Jed Busslinger, first of all? The best intercept defender in this comp. If you want transition, which is the most important stat in AFL now, this is your man. Screams at you. Now, what would the reason Nick Austin take him? Because I hear what you're saying. Pommy, we've got Marchbank, we've got McGovern, we've got Young, we've got Wheatering, we've got lots of depth in that position we have. But the highest valued players on the open market are genuinely third intercepts and key positions. If Nick Austin thought this guy's going to be ready by about the bye to take over, I'm confident this guy will take it over. If we can get Marchbank into a position, McGovern into a position, maybe we can trade them on for assets later. Maybe as well, if I have a deal in place for 18 and 19 with future picks, I can get my outside foot room and I bank the talent. Because what I'm saying is if you did an AFL draft order by skill, not need, skill, Busslinger would probably be at Carlton's pick.
Correct. And this is the whole idea of when you're in that first round area, do you go for the play you need or do you go for the talent? You go for the talent, which is what most and the best clubs do. So I think from our perspective, as you said, backing in the talent with a guy like him would be a wise idea, because then it also gives you options outside of him if you want to pick him up. So you said it perfectly. And you know, you look at a guy like McGovern and Marchbank, and they're not durable. They're not reliable. You know, as much as they were pretty solid towards the back end of the year, you can't really put any trust in their bodies. So you bring in a new bloke, you know, who's arguably just as talented, if not more talented than them. And you say, well, at least we've got a guy there who can, you know, play the next handful of years in this particular role. And then alternatively, if Marchbank and McGovern actually have solid years, we can say, okay, we've got trade value for them. We can trade them off for what we actually need, you know, in the long run after this season.
Mate, I agree. And so, I mean, that's to answer everyone's questions. Like, Jed Busslinger, absolutely love him. Love him. Do I think Carlton will do that? I can't see Carlton get... I could see merit. My likelihood is about a 5 out of 10. If a deal comes in and we get 18 or 19, I think there's great argument for what I'm about to show you now, that you take this guy if you keep that pick.
Yep.
And McGovern or Marchbank, I agree, Christian. I love Marchbank. But if there's value there, potentially Carlton could get back into the first round next year by offloading that challenge. And Jed Busslinger, to be fair, the guy doesn't know what injuries are. He's got the cheat code on. And he is... I do use this phrase too much. My kids told me off the other day, but he is a very sexy footballer.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Kids told me off. Kids told me off. But this question came in before we get to your questions from Ash Vulich, the magician extraordinaire, I believe. So thank you very much for this question. And he basically sent me a long question asking if I could give him a pick for each position.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So let's do it. Let's do it. So let's just have a bit of fun. So if we're looking for a midfielder, I've gone with 4 midfielders here. You've got Cam McKenzie, the best balanced midfielder in the AFL draft. Repeat after me. The best balanced midfielder in the AFL draft. I don't care what anyone's saying. He is. It's fact. Then we've got Mr. Allen. You've heard about him. He has flown up draft boards. Ed Allen is all over the place. Already got the Carlton logo on because he plays for Claremont. Adam Deloya, inside hard ass, and Jake Walker. So there's 4 guys. If Nick Austin's thinking, maybe I want a little bit of inside skill with maybe the potential to go outside like McKenzie and Allen potentially could do, or pure insiders like Deloya and Walker.
Allen's the one, I think, if they were going to go down that way. He's bolted up the draft boards. I think we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago as well. Really like what he's got to offer and has to show. And I think Walker as well might be the other one too. But I think Allen, for mine, just from what I like and what I like to see in a player, if they were going to go down that path, I'd be going for a guy like him who sort of bolstered and shot his way up the draft board.
You want me to sell? Do you want me to sell Edward Allen to you?
You can.
That this guy kicks very good on his left foot and elite with his right.
There you go. Ambidextrous. Bit of Heath Scotland. Love it.
Hey. So that makes Carlton's kicking efficiency even better because some of them can't kick with one. He takes one out.
I think it was such a silly thing, but it was such a simple thing that Voss said. He goes, you boys who kick with your right foot need to start kicking more with your left to open up more angles. You can see Cripps did it a lot this year. Not to great avail, but he did it.
mate, and you know me as well. I'm a sucker for a left footer on the right-hand side and a right footer on the left-hand side.
You are. The cutting.
Mate, sucker. But there's your sexy midfielders. Then we've got, these are like pseudo-toes, we'll call them, because I've crept some in. But these are what you could do. You've got Jed Busslinger. We've just talked about him. Look at the lid. He's got good hair. I'm a sucker for hair. James Van Ness, if you watch
like him, really like Van Ness. I called him, I think, twice this season in the NAB League and was really taken aback by his interceptability and his bravery going back with the flight and his ball use as well. Out of the pick there, I know we've seen Tyrese Lou as well, but I really like what I saw with Van Ness. I think he's a really talented intercept defender.
He's very good. I like him too. And we've got Ethan Phillips, if you wanted to go a little bit older. And we've got Tyrese. I mean, I'm picking Tyrese there, ladies and gentlemen, because he's my boy.
Really good intercept, isn't he? He's super in the air, isn't he?
He's come on leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
This is where I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of options here for flashy forwards. Now, we've obviously got my best mate, Bailey Humphrey. We know I'm in love. But if you were looking for a forward who's just going to kick goals and allow Durden to tackle all day, Mr. Braden George is your man. This guy he's the CR7 of small forward. He is literally the CR7. He's going to be running in front of you guys in the cheer squad. He's going to drop a big Sue right here.
I love it. I think Harvey Gallagher's the other one too. That's really intriguing because he played at the Northern Blue in the Carlton VFL team this season as well. So there must be some sort of intrigue and interest around him too.
Mate, he's impeccable. And if Carlton gets to 18 and 19, I would say that's probably why. We know I love Bailey Humphrey. This is a good one from Bugsbell. You're thinking, there's another argument for taking Jed Busslinger. Carlton don't actually have a guy that can play key forward in backup. And third is do Carlton take Busslinger and think, well, right, he can play third defender. McGovern's the swing.
The option's there. We know the option is there. It's good to have.
I like it. Now, I think this is the most exciting position in the draft because we just said Carlton need backup. So we got Matty Jefferson, who, in my opinion, is the best key forward in this comp. Just let that sink in. In 10 years' time, remember me saying that. Isaac Keeler, one of my favourites. Tom Scully, I'm in love. And Jovan Petrick. What a name. What a name. It sounds like he should be playing in the World Cup.
I think so. Scully's the one here, I think, probably the one that people have forgotten about. And I think you made mention of this a couple of weeks ago, is that because he's not big and he hasn't got that, that big marauding forward physicality about him. But make no mistake, this kid can play. I reckon with sort of 2 or 3 seasons under his belt, I reckon there might be a player there. But again, that's an area that we have to look at and say, okay, well, is it an area of need at the moment? Maybe not with Charlie and Harry there, but I still think you've got to look at it and say, well, we still need to be developing players under them as well. Is the Brodie Kemp project going to work? Don't know. We're not too sure yet. He seems to be playing that high half forwardish role throughout the VFL. Work throughout patches, but I think we might need some new talent in that department too. So I think a key forward would actually not be the worst idea.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think one of the knocks in Adelaide about Tom Scully is his attitude of learning. That's a rumour, though. Just saying that's a rumour. It's not confirmed, but that's a lot of what a lot of the Adelaide forums are saying. And my argument is we've worked so hard on getting this culture. Fucking at pick 50 odd, take it.
Yeah,
exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Take your club in.
Do you know what I mean? And Harry and Charlie have been much heralded as spending time with these defenders.
Yep.
Let them do it in. And then the last two we've got, I don't think we'll get a ruck, but these are your ruck candidates. I brought Keeler back twice, just because I like him. We've got Harry Barnett, as we know, the best ruck in the draft. Max Noble, though, is one that I want you to have a look at. And my mate, Matthew Broadbent. This kid is a giant. He is actually a giant.
Yeah, I don't think the ruck department we really need to focus too much on. I think we've got our 3 there that we need. Maybe they could go with, and the thing that I would be looking at is to go with someone away from the young brigade, someone who's a little bit older in that 28, 29, 30-year-old bracket, because,
Has Paolo died?
We've got Pitnet there who's middle-aged. Hey? No, I'm still
Sorry,
here. Still here. Yeah.
Paused.
No, I'm still here. We've got Pitnet who's there at the right age, DeConning who's in that development age, and then we've got Murkoff who's the project ruckman. So do you really want 4 rucks on a list? And then you've got Jack as backup too. So no, I don't think it's an area we'll be focusing on too much in the draft.
No, I'm with you. And then we'll finish with outside pace. A little bit of foot speed. You all love a little bit of foot and engine. I think we need it. We got the boy, Ollie Hollands there on the left. We got my favourite because he's got a mullet and it is a sexy mullet. Lachlan Cohen, which would allow Doc to go in the midfield. You got Blake Jury and a new one to the channel. Smoky this for late picks. Darcy Edmonds. I'm a big fan of Mr. Darcy.
Okay, I think you were very hot on Cohen as the player to look out for from Tassie. So I've been keeping tabs on him for the last few weeks, and I think if we needed some outside run, he would probably be the one to pick because I think he'd fall. What pick would he fall in? Sort of like late second, maybe late third. Is late third what they're looking at, or higher?
I reckon 20 to 25. I reckon he's starting to creep up. He had a real good combine as well.
Yep.
And bonus for the jumper punch, boys.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of stick from some people about the woof, right? Because he doesn't kick it very far. This guy here, when he kicks a football, it cries.
There you go.
It goes that far. Honestly, there's been he's not allowed to actually kick at certain times of the day for fear of the International Space Station getting it. But he roofs
Radars might pick it up.
He does, but we have overrun on time, as we always do.
We always do, you and I.
Because what happens when you get an Italian and a Pom together? They talk
They
too
don't
much.
stop. They don't stop. We're probably going to be talking. We're probably going to be talking too long later tonight as well. Overnight crowds coming up tonight at 11.
Spot on. It's a good job Terry doesn't provide wine and pasta.
Oh, we'd be here for days. The street. I think the StreamYard link had run out.
Break it. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Like you say, if you want to PM me the questions to the Monday show, I will do what I did for the wonderful Ash, and I can make a presentation so we can answer it in depth as opposed to on the fly. Make sure you tune in tonight as well. What time does it start tonight?
11 p.m. Melbourne time tonight. So get on it. 11 p.m. There's plenty going on. You're going to come on, have a chat about the PL, Premier League. Fuck, what a weekend it was. Jesus.
It was a great weekend if you're an Arsenal fan, yeah.
Great weekend if you're an Arsenal fan.
I'm more than happy to talk about Aston Villa if you want to. That's why you want me on.
No worries. Sounds good. I'll see you at 11.
So make sure you tune into that. Make sure if you want a sub, go to Pommy and Oz. I am 11 away from 3K, right? So there must be 11 of you that
we
watch
can get
the
it now,
videos.
Surely we can get it now.
Do you know what I mean? It's an absolute disgrace if you're not. But no, serious. If you want to go over there and give me some love, Pom would be forever indebted. I've worked really hard to try and get that to 3K. We will be back next week because Terry now is officially overseas.
Yep.
So technically now we're just totally in charge.
I think he's over there with the sheikhs in Dubai at the moment, isn't he?
Getting investment. There'll be Blue Abroad towers, won't they? This time next year.
I think the Arab sheikhs are going to start investing in Blue Abroad. We might have an unlimited fund. We might all get black credit cards, Pommy.
Can you imagine that? We'll be the Man City. I'm looking forward to it. But thank you very much to everyone. Much love. We'll be back next week. There'll be loads of content as well coming. Till next time. See you soon.